I didn't have to test 3, this one's just right. Okay, to continue my Russia story, we had been hidden in this little dormitory that was designed so that people could eavesdrop on any of the little apartments in it. But the housekeeper of it took off and we never saw her again, nor did we ever see again the grad student who led us there. So we were there, we had a few days to explore Moscow while we waited for the time when our plane would leave. So I went to get something, I don't know, maybe water with no gas. That's how you buy bottled water there. You can say water, no gas in English, and they'll understand that you don't want your water carbonated. They'll just give you plain water. So I'm coming back and I'm walking down the alley that leads to a little place where we're hidden. And there's this beautiful orchestral music, classical music, floating out of these windows. It's gorgeous. So I just stopped to listen. Like I've done it many times in the United States. I hear beautiful music, I stop to listen. And I'm listening, and I'm smiling, and I'm looking up there. And then they notice that I'm listening and I'm watching. And they come, and their faces are furious, and they slam the window shut. This is in Moscow, this is in Russia. I go back and tell my husband, and we go out for the day. And everywhere there are these little performances, dance performances, all over the city because one of Russia's great writers had a birthday or something that day, and now you're celebrating it as a national holiday, which was tremendous. How often do we celebrate as a national holiday a writer for their creative work? This is something we should learn to do. So all of the performances were really slick. They were beautifully executed, and they were absolutely soulless. Not one of those performances had anything to say. Okay, so we're having fun, just walking around. We have no money left because various things had stolen our money from us, and we had to buy a very expensive ticket to leave when our passport said, our visa said, rather than when, we originally had bought them for. So, we're walking down the street, and I know somewhere is the Moscow Arts Theater, where Stanislavski, who basically invented today's style of acting, worked. So I'm looking at these theater fronts, and I'm wondering, which one is the Moscow Arts Theater? Because I can't tell because their alphabet is different. And my husband is saying, Cynthia, and I'm ignoring him. My head is full of Stanislavski and the Moscow Arts Theater. Someone is following us. This is not good news in a dictatorship, even if they do have perestroika right now. Okay? So what do? Well, we run away, of course, okay? So what we do is we start heading away, and we know that there's an underground mall. So we cross the street, and as we're crossing the street, a bus is going by. So we duck down behind the wheels of the bus so that we can't be seen by the guy who's following us. And then when we get to near the opening of the mall, we run into the mall and go down the escalator. This is a very shishi mall that sells mink coats and everything really expensive, lots of American products, and down at the bottom there's a food court. And as we're going down the escalator, above us, a circle of soldiers gathers carrying their equivalent of AK-15s. And down below us, there's a shadowy area, like a backstage of the theater, and this guy comes out with a walkie-talkie, and he looks at us, and he says to me, "That's the guy who was following us." So we look up at the soldiers and their machine guns, and we look down at this guy, and we decide, okay, when we get down at the bottom of the escalator, we will walk toward him, so he will know we were simply afraid, but that we don't mean anything, we're just really tourists. So we decided we'd do that, but then the guy with the walkie-talkie spoke into his walkie-talkie, and the soldiers dispersed, and he stepped back into the shadows. So we went and had some food. Gilmore went to the bathroom. I was terrified. He's going to be grabbed by the KGB. I'm never going to see him again. But he did come back. So the rest of the time, we had a fairly good time when all you can buy is really bottled water and a few little of those Russian dolls that, they're nested inside of each other. And Guillermo's being able to read the street signs, he's great at languages, and then finally it's the day to leave. And we have to talk the hotel into letting us in to the hotel because it's a hotel for Russians only. There are hotels for tourists, American tourists, and then for European tourists, and then European tourists who speak Russian, and then for Russians. And there are all these are nice hotels, but they have vastly different prices. Since we had no money left, for various reasons of them stealing it from us, we stayed at the Russian hotel. It was a lovely hotel. And I would read him Dead Souls each night, which is a satire written by a Russian about Russian society. So we would know how to behave. So he would use what I called his Lenin voice. So when the woman told us we couldn't stay or it was impossible, he would say, possible, in this really low, scary voice, just like Lenin, and she let us stay there. So, the next day, he watched the Russian videos, and I took a bath with a lovely Russian soap. It was wonderful. And so the next day we go to the airport, and we're supposed to go someplace to declare what we have, but we can't find it. And all the signs are in Russian. There are no international signs like you will find all over Europe. There's just Russian. So, okay, we just get in the line to show our passports. And this young lady is very angry with us because we didn't go to declare. So finally she says, well, how much money do you have? So we had like $30. So my husband said, we have $30 and 14 cents to make it really explicit so it seemed realistic. And so she said, okay, she looked at her passports, she threw them in our faces, and we went to where the airport, where our flight was, and we had to sit and wait for it. And that was one of the scariest half an hours in my life, because we were leaving early and we had been warned by the American embassy that people who were having problems like we were, visas, wrong dates, etc., that later they could not find them. So we go to get on the plane, and our names are not on the masthead. There are these, my name and his name have been kind of twisted into Russian-sounding names, but they're not our names. So mine is like Klevinsky, and his is like Romonkov or something. But they let us on, because they don't know what else to do. Because apparently, when they really don't know, when people are breaking rules and they don't know what to do about it, because in Russia people are too scared to break the rules, because it's really dangerous to break rules. They don't know what to do about it, so they just do nothing. So we get on the plane, and when we arrive in the United States in New York City, we were asked by our government, what were you doing in Russia? Well, I was attending a convention on literature. But our names were not on the masthead. And so we weren't supposed to be arriving then. They were not expecting us. It made customs a little tricky. We had to make a statement about it, because then his jacket was missing, which was a very expensive jacket. So we went in to complain about that, so we ended up with the FBI. You weren't on the masthead. What are you doing here? Are you really Americans? So we had to write a statement. And we wrote the statement. And finally they said, okay, we will leave you. And they let us go home. When you live in a country that does not have freedom, you can be killed at any point. You will be followed and be surrounded by Uzis. Your name will not be on a masthead. And sometimes you'll get lucky and escape, but sometimes you won't. You will be a wonderful basketball star, and you will be put in prison. Everyone is in danger when that happens. So please, research candidates and vote. Thank you.